What's going on, sports card hobby family? We are back again, another sports card video. Today we're tackling two topics that I think are a huge threat to the overall sports card hobby. And maybe I'm becoming the crotchety old man just yelling into the sky about stuff that everybody else enjoys, and that could very well be the case. But I still want to throw this out there because I think it's important to talk about. Before I get started, huge thanks to today's video sponsor, COMC.com, the growing 35 million card inventory, a treasure trove for collectors with a wide range of options to suit every taste and preference. User-friendly COMC interface allows you to filter and search for cards with ease, ensuring you find exactly what cards you're looking for to add to your collection, whether it's marble cards or baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all the stuff on COMC.com. I've got links in the video description as well as in the pinned comments to check it out. All right, we're going to have a little bit of a fireside chat, just kind of shooting from the hip a little bit this morning. I don't want to put a lot of preparation into this because it's just kind of top of mind, just things that are on my mind, and they've been on my mind for a little while. And again, sometimes I feel like I'm the crazy one. And so, look, this might be a me thing. This might be that I'm the one that has the issues and I need to get over it, or I need to just do other things or whatever. Could very well be the case. So this is just my opinion. And it's also not a knock on folks that are enjoying the aspects of the hobby that I'm going to talk about. So just to kind of kick this off, I am definitely a nostalgia buyer in this space. I like to buy singles. Occasionally, I'll open up a box or packs. But to be honest, a lot of what I like to open as far as product goes is the junk wax era, overprinted era, whatever you want to call it. Don't want to hurt anyone's feelings calling it the junk wax era. I can go back in time and open a box of 89 Pro Set football, looking for Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman rookies, or 92 Flair Ultra to look for Shaq rookies, or maybe even like Harold Miner or some of these guys coming into the league, Calbert Chaney, just because it would be fun to kind of relive opening that box. Now that's a $50 box, maybe it's $60 or whatever. 88 Topps football, maybe it's a $60, $70 box, but I get just as much, if not more, enjoyment out of opening up that box, even though I know there's not a $1 million lottery ticket, Wemby, Otto, Black Shimmer, Eel Skin, whatever the hell in that box. I still enjoy thinking back to, oh my God, I used to open these boxes and I remember, these players, kind of these lost players in time. Think about how many players are in the league. The MLB too, when you look at old baseball cards, you're just looking through and you're like, how is this guy even playing in the league? But it'll bring you back to a time where you're like, oh yeah, I remember when Bubby Brister was the quarterback for the Steelers. So I get more enjoyment out of opening that than opening up what is really a lot more expensive of a box nowadays. There are pockets. There's pockets in here where you can open up new product and feel good about it. But we all know this isn't some sort of a new thing, that over the last 5 years, the cost of new product has gone up like the cost of bread. It's like 3 times, the amount that it was, if not more. It's an expensive hobby. It's become a very expensive hobby. And so for me, I'm a nostalgia buyer. I like buying, 80s, 90s pop culture items. As you can see behind me, it's pretty obvious here. And then I also do like my favorite players. I got Drew Brees and I'm buying a Tom Brady. And there's also certain cards that I'm after because I think that they're good long-term hold buys. If we're talking about store of value, going to be some cards in my collection that are just kind of, I really enjoy the card, the pride of ownership of having that card. And I also think that it's a good store of value over time. So that's my bucket. And then of course I've got random PC cards like Bobby Hebert. Everyone's got to love Bobby Hebert. If you don't know who I'm talking about, just go onto the YouTube Bobby Hebert highlights for my New Orleans Saints playing with the Dome Patrol in the late 80s, and you will see magnificence. And when I say magnificence, I mean average to above average quarterback play. All right, the first of these two topics is one thing that's changed dramatically over the last few years is the rise of sports betting, and nationally how it's become legal. Here in my state of North Carolina, it is recently a legal thing to where now you can sports bet, or I think soon, you can now sports bet on all sorts of different things. You can sports bet on who wins the game. You can sports bet on, who's going to have more points or this and that, the parlays or whatever. All the stuff, I'm not big into this, but I will say I have a lot of friends, and also my younger brother, who's 20 years younger than me. I have noticed that he's big into it, but his generation as a whole, maybe because it is legal, has now become more ingrained in the sports betting world. Now, what's also kind of happened here too is the leagues have taken this on. They're taking big money, from these companies. You've got players in commercials. You can't bet on baseball, but you can bet on all the other things if you're a baseball player. It's just kind of a weird paradigm that we're in. I saw a funny meme that was like Ohtani, coming down on Ohtani and Pete Rose for potential sports betting. Ohtani, I know it's still up in the air if he's got anything to do with it or not. Pete Rose bet on baseball. Now, like, everyone's betting on everything. Although baseball players, you can bet on everything, but you can't bet on baseball. It's just kind of a weird thing that's now happened here in the leagues. How has that influenced the hobby? Well, the hobby has become a gambling center. Really a lot of, we've been talking about this. It's the rise of breaks and it's the rise of repacks. Really the big one for me, the bigger surprise, breaks actually makes a little bit more sense to me why that's become popular. Repacks, and again, I think it's probably just because the high cost of hobby boxes, the high cost of new product, and just the amount of value that you're getting out of that new product, people are like, you know what, I'll take that repack instead, where it's like, okay, at least I'll get a Hall of Fame auto or something out of it. I may not get all my money back, but I've got a better chance at getting that bigger card, or a better chance of getting some decent cards out of it. So the rise of repacks has been tremendous in this hobby. But it does beg the question, how many people are around that are still like me, where it's nostalgia buys? We got back in because we collected it as kids, and we're doing that piece. And then how much of the hobby, and I'd be really curious to know these numbers. None of us will really ever know this because I don't know how to really quantify it. How much of the hobby is breaks and repacks and razzes or whatever the hell else.
You guys don't know what razzes are. I'm going to get into them in just a second here, but we're going to talk about a couple different things. Okay, what is a razz? Why do people do razzes? And why not to do razzes? Okay, so first off, let's talk about what a razz is. Okay, let me start off this portion of the talk today by saying, hey, listen, I'm not a lawyer. Okay. If you think about doing this and this is something you want to do, I would seek the advice of an attorney in your state, okay? But first off, a razz, in my opinion, is illegal. They're not legal, but essentially what a razz is take, for example, you have a $100 item that you want to sell, and rather than selling it at $100 outright to one buyer, you essentially are going to sell spots for this item. So, for example, 10 spots at $10 to 10 different buyers, okay? And everybody gets a spot there, and everybody gets a number. So let's say you're number 1, and everybody else gets their own number all the way up to number 10. And then those 10 numbers, or 10 names, are thrown into a randomizer 5 times, and they're randomized out. And the person who finishes at the top there of the 5th randomized is the winner, okay? That makes sense?
Throw this in, duck racing, whatever this is, kind of that gambling element, the fair games, make a shot and you get a stuffed animal. All the different kind of the gambling element that's now here in sports cards. It didn't just arrive. This has been here for years and years. So this isn't something that just happened. But again, for me, am I the weirdo now that buys cards for nostalgia's sake, or looking to buy cards for long-term holds and that sort of thing? A kind of a fun store of value to where, hey, I've got stocks, bonds, real estate. I'd also like to have a few key important sports cards or non-sports cards or whatever to add into my overall stuff, my overall assets, whatever. So I just wonder how many people are like me and how many are just more on kind of that gambling side. The other part of the hobby that I can't believe that I'm actually talking about it. I've made videos on this. And again, I am the weirdo, but I've talked about this with some of my hobby friends as well. I think that card cleaning and card repair, it doesn't make any sense to me how there's not more, I guess, outrage or just more people that care about it, care about the fact that there could be something that's added to a card that could cause a problem 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, especially given the amount of money that we're all spending on, slab cards. But I think that the answer kind of falls into what I was just talking about. How much of the hobby are long-term holders, that are buying to kind of, hold for a fairly, and I'm not saying hold into, like coffin cards and they've got to come with you. I'm saying more of just holding for more than, a year or 2 years. Maybe you've got certain things where you're like, I'm going to hold this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever it is. Not just because I think it's a good kind of long-term hold buy, store value, but also just the joy of ownership of that thing. It's a rare card you've been chasing, Or maybe it's not a rare card, but it's an iconic card. We talk about 86 Fleer Jordan. It's not a rare card, but it is an iconic card. So just wanting to hold that and really enjoy ownership of that particular thing. To me, card cleaning and card repair, it's a huge, huge liability for people like me that are doing that are kind of buying and holding, spending some significant money. I'm not spending huge, huge money like some are and have, but I'm spending enough to where it's significant. I'm spending enough to where it's like, that could have gone to something else. And I know some people are saying like, oh, that's just a spray, that's just a polish. You're just cleaning, you're just cleaning cards. I'm looking at a wide variety of products. I'm seeing out there, there's a spray, there's a polish, there's a soak, there's an edge fixer, there's a crease fixer, dent surface issues fixer. I mean, is that all card clean? Is that cleaning? I guess there's a lot of nuance probably to the subject in a gray area. The part that's not gray though is the grading companies are not accepting of it. I guess it'd be one thing. People like to bring up comic books. Comic books and graded video games, they've had this service where you can, press and clean comics, and you can also clean video games, as part of kind of the overall thing. That's how it was started. That's how the standards were set. So if the standards are set, then okay, we know what we're dealing with. In trading cards, we don't have that. The standard is don't add any foreign substances, and that's not being followed. And, before maybe a few weeks ago, a month ago, I thought this was a really niche part, like small part. So a lot of me was kind of like, why do I really care about card cleaning? It's just not a bit like how many cards are actually being cleaned. Well, I've learned recently a lot are being cleaned. It's not like, 0.01% of cards are being cleaned. And it's also not limited to ultra modern cards. It's also not limited to just vintage cards. It's a huge, wide variety swath of cards. Just the obvious thing I've been saying in videos is if you are out buying a card, if you're buying that 86 Fleer Jordan and you're going to get a 5 or you're going to get a 6 like that, you've saved up for it. You've saved up to get that card. You've had to work up to get the card. If you know the thing has been cleaned, polished, repaired, whatever, are you purchasing that one? Or are you purchasing the one that has not been clean, polished, prepared, all that stuff? And the easiest, most common sense answer of all time is that we would choose to pick the one that has not been messed with. That is so obvious, utterly obvious. And so it clearly has an effect on the market. The fact that we're just all flying blind, it's not disclosed, we just don't know. We're just like, okay, we'll just buy this one, or I guess I'll choose that one. Doesn't that feel a little insane? It feels a little bit insane. Again, yes, old man yelling into the clouds. These are things that I'm too old to understand. I'm too stupid to understand that this is like a great thing. This is all a great thing. But our hobby, to me, these two ventures, if we're going the way of gambling and card cleaning repair, if that's kind of where we're headed, then yeah, I guess I just have to kind of pick my spots like I always would anyway, and like we always do. For me, the big risk here is if we really kind of triple down on all this stuff, then I don't know how this all looks in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't see how on either end of the spectrum, whether you're big money looking to get into this space, or if you are a collector of cards and you care about cards and you care about like, hey, I just don't really want my stuff messed with, I don't see how that serves either side of the equation. And the people that don't care about values at all and the people that are all about values moving forward. I don't see how it serves. If we're really tripling down on that stuff, I don't see that as being a great thing at all. And maybe this speaks to why Fanatics is all their messaging is about we need new collectors, we need new collectors, we need new collectors, because they've got the gamblers. The gamblers are already here. Do we need more gamblers? Probably not. We probably need more people that actually care about cards, that are actually wanting to kind of buy, hold cards or trade cards, collect their favorite players, love the designs, whatever the case is, that aren't just here as opposed to just pulling the slot. Again, probably just me. I'm probably in the minority here. I do think that the reason why a lot of people don't care about card cleaning or card repairs, I do think that most of the hobby either falls into kind of that gambling quick flip space where that's mostly all they're doing, or they're buying more kind of cards on the lower end. And even if they are, collecting and not necessarily buying and flipping and selling those cards, let's say they're collecting sets. They're not as worried about, a card in their set, maybe a common card coming out of that set, vintage set, that may have been cleaned or repaired because they didn't spend $1,000 on it. in most cases. I do know there's exceptions to the rule where people are buying into expensive sets and that sort of thing, but I'm talking about the majority of the hobby are buying lower to mid-end cards. So if one of their cards in their collection pops up, it's in a slab and a stain is coming back, they might be like, okay, well, that sucks. I spent $50 on this, or I spent $100 on it. That's horrible, but you know, it is what it is. Comes with the territory. So that's, I think, why people just don't really care as much about this subject. But I'll be curious to see if the industry as a whole doubles down, triples down, quadruples down on all of this stuff. As far as breaking and repacks go, in moderation, hey, I don't want to ruin anyone's fun. Totally get it. Look, if that's the way that you hobby, then perfect. We also need, I think, too, for certain products, you get the product open, the singles come out on the market for singles buyers. There's an ecosystem, so I totally get it. But if the main hobby draw is to come in and gamble, I don't see how we're all celebrating that as we move down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. Or if it's perfectly okay to dink it, to soak and dink and throw the, spray the stuff, spray it down with the hose. Hey, buddy, we'll get that stain out for you. We'll get that crease. We'll take care of that crease for you. Really? That's where we're at? All right, guys, that's all I've got today. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.